Every year, Startup Grind hosts our SG Women Leaders Month, proudly recognizing the accomplishments of successful female leaders all over the world. This year's SG Women Month is proudly presented by Google for Startups and Silicon Valley Bank. So I'll play a quick video, and after that, we'll get going.
Every year, Startup Grind hosts our SG Women Leaders Month, proudly recognizing the accomplishments of successful women leaders all over the world. These women are founders, venture capitalists, engineers, executives, educators, and more who represent our community all around the world. This month's SG Women Month is proudly presented by Google for Startups and Silicon Valley Bank.
After all this, let's give a quick introduction on today's guests. Tara Akhavan is a visionary award-winning technology entrepreneur and a pioneer in the field of perceptual display processing. She founded IRYStec in 2015 and served as a CTO for 5 years, introducing eye-friendly display technology to the automotive industry. I'll keep it short and I'll let Tara speak about her story. So Tara, welcome and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thanks, Mazen. Hi, thanks for having me. Well, I'll be short because I know we want to go through the questions. So as you said, my name is Tara Akhavan. I moved to Montreal in late 2014 to start IRYStec. My background is in image processing and computer engineering. I did a bachelor's in computer engineering software, master's in artificial intelligence, and PhD in image processing and computer vision. I did my studies. I'm originally Iranian, Persian. I moved to Vienna. I did my PhD in Vienna. And then accidentally, I think we are going to get into that, I ended up in Montreal in the summertime. So it looked very good. And I'm like, I'm moving to this city.
Oh.
Yeah, so exactly. So I moved here in mid-2014 to start IRYStec. And it has been an amazing journey. I think we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that. That's, if you can tell us a bit of what attracted you to Montreal. I mean, other than the beautiful quote unquote summer we have.
So I was a second-year PhD student, and I was pitching an idea I had in a conference in Greece. One person in the audience happened to be the first investor who wrote the check from Tandem Launch. So Helge Zitzen, which is the general partner and CEO of Tandem Launch, was there. This is September 2013. We get to talk because he also had a PhD in the similar domain, and he sold the company before that to Dolby. I think at that time Tandem Launch was new. Now a lot of people know Tandem Launch in town. My lighting is not so good, so I'm gonna just move a bit. So yeah, I got in touch with him. We started chatting about the fact that my idea can maybe become a startup, and he would support that idea. So he got me on a work permit to come for a few months to Montreal from Vienna to start to see if this idea has legs. And then that's a different story, that idea has, like, we've pivoted from that and we've changed the idea so many times until what is today IRYStec, but the vision at least was more or less the same. That's how I ended up here.
Right. Well, I guess you made the right choice.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
So what are the biggest challenges you faced in growing a company? At the beginning, you can start maybe at the early stages and then move to what it is now.
Sure. So many different challenges. Like I was an immigrant, from immigration, from starting the company, from Tandem Launch massively helped, by the way. So Tandem Launch provides this infrastructure that made it easier to be on a work permit, to get access to industry experts, to get feedback on the idea. They helped with IP acquisition, with understanding of what is IP and what are the bits and pieces actually as a startup you need to put in place. And on top of it, the check, the first 500K. So I would say that helped a lot. That is like the first year that I was in Tandem Launch with my co-founder. That's the year that we put the foundation in place. Biggest challenges each year, you would have different challenges. And each time you think, if I pass this milestone, it's going to be easier. It's just the next milestone, just the one after that. So first, of course, is fundraising for all the entrepreneurs, right? Working on your pitch, the elevator pitch, making your story sharp, making the vision understandable and believable, and get like-minded people, whether they are investors or co-founders or team members around you. Surround yourself. I would say that's a big challenge, to just find like-minded people who are sharing the vision with you. And picking the right investors, picking the right team members, that stays the challenge up to date. So no matter what stage you are, you need to get the best if you can, and surround yourself with the best team, with the best investors, with the best patents and everything. So I would say that's an ongoing challenge for sure. The biggest challenge in the first few years was enough cash. What is enough, and how much equity you want to give up for that amount of cash? I think all the entrepreneurs at some point are dealing with this optimization problem. That's maybe at the beginning. Then when you have enough cash, the problem becomes how to build a real product that the market wants. So the next stage is the actual working product, which is not probably what you have in mind at the beginning. It will be like many iterations until you get to the product building and the product that the market needs and fits the product. And then I would say comes all the growth stage challenges, like with the skill sets that you need in your team when you're a team of 5, and the skill sets you need when you're a team of 30, 40, 50. They're different skill sets. So I would say these are like maybe the biggest challenges over time.
Okay, definitely, yeah. With a bigger team, I guess you have to adopt different people strategies. I'd like to go back a bit, and if you can tell us about more about IRYStec, what you do, how, and you talked about an evolution of the product and the idea. So if you can tell us about what the original idea started and how it evolved to what it is today, and just describe like your core basically product.
So we have a product today, which is a software-only product that makes display smarter. So all of us as consumers of display products, we spend more than 8 hours on average in front of screens, whether it's from the smartwatch. This is not a smartwatch though, but like I have the habit of pointing at this. From the smartwatch, laptop, tablet, TV, yeah, that one. So it's more than 8 hours. And there's so many ways we can look into the user experience that we get dealing with these devices. We know they are not as healthy as they should be. We know there are side effects. We know they are hurting our eyes. They are screwing our night vision and sleep cycle. That's one aspect. So it's all the wellness category. And then the other challenge is the whole visibility. Like we use our devices in a sunny environment and we don't see the screen anymore, no matter how cutting edge that screen is. So then comes the visibility or safety in automotive that we are in. That's the industry we are focused on. So what we do is to make sure that we understand how our eyes really work in all those conditions, how our eyes age, how we need to personalize the content to the viewer so that we assure that in all the conditions for every viewer, they get the best user experience. We hopefully will make it safer and healthier for the viewer to have a lot of screen time. So the product is a software. We integrate it into the operating system of the device, and then the screen is going to be more visible and healthier for the viewer. Yeah. And the market that we are right now in, and we got acquired a few months ago, is automotive. So our focus since 3 years ago has been massively on automotive industry with the big dashboards and multiple screens in the car.
Okay, so did you start off aiming for a different industry and then evolve towards automotive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, painfully so. So that's one of the pivots I would say we made on the business side and on the business model. So we did aim for consumer electronics first, and consumer electronics is very much dominated in China, especially the handsets. And for us to be able to blend into that market, to be able to work in that market and sell software in that market, that was a tough choice for a small startup with limited people, remotely in a very, very far away market. So after a while, we realized that's not the best option. And also in consumer electronics, there are a lot of different unfair comparison that happens. On a mobile phone, for 1 year, you will have a new feature. It can be a visual feature or a camera feature or a sound feature. So for us, sometimes we were compared with a sound feature to be able to get into market. In the meantime, automotive was very interesting because visibility in automotive is a safety matter. So it was a different value proposition. It was a stronger value proposition for our product. So we pivoted, I would say, I think 3 years ago. So a year in, when we were building the product, we pivoted from consumer electronics to automotive.
That's really, I mean, it really shows how you set out to do one thing and then you end up doing, in this case, something similar, but
well, the product more or less stayed the same, but the ecosystem finished. The players changed. So I think all the entrepreneurs know about stories of pivoting. It's just, again, what is the right time and how to pivot? Those two are very key questions, right? Because you get sometimes pressure to pivot your technology or pivot your market or pivot your business model. And it's a very tough call to know when to do it and then switch to a different one, which will be more effective for you.
Okay. So during your fundraising, we know you've raised about $8 million in seed and Series A.
Right.
Do you have
above 8 million?
Sorry?
A bit above 8 million, I think.
Okay.
3 or 4.
Okay. Do you have any stories to tell about that? Any obstacles? Any particular event that really struck you as important or a milestone during that process?
Every step is a milestone, right? Like when you're at seed round, you think like it's if I just pass this one, then I'm going to build a product. The products are, rule of thumb, are going to take twice more time as you estimate them. And so it's just they take more because you need to the back and forth with customers. So I would say you're always cash sensitive as a startup, no matter how much you raise, and that's one of the challenges. Any story in fundraising? A lot of things. Which one can I share publicly? Mm-hmm. Fundraising, I would say, because we are also focusing on maybe women entrepreneurs. I think it has never been as good of a time for women entrepreneurs. We don't have enough women entrepreneurs still. I think we are still around 20% women entrepreneurs. But there are a lot of fundings, and there is, particularly in Canada, there's a lot of women in tech funding. So I would say that's a very good part. And when I started, it was not like that. So obviously each round that we did fundraising, I could feel that there are so many more options, particularly for women founders, to tap in. That's a very good point. It's not where it should be still, but it's of course so much better than 5 years ago, so much better than 2 years ago. So I would say that's something that I noticed during the fundraising. And then another thing is one important thing that every first-time entrepreneur might learn the hard way is when you're pitching to an investor, usually the first-time entrepreneurs are pitching because from a not desperation, but from a point of view that I just want to get this one, right? You're looking for that yes, which is amazing. It's like you're going to the interview to get the job. Yeah. But but also you should interview your party, right? The other party. So you should be also interviewing your partners. These are your future partners, your future board members. It's not just the cash. It comes with the whole package. So you want to optimize it. You want to get to know them. You want to make sure that they share the vision. I would say this is not a story, but this is my lessons learned, that it's very important to also pick your investors. For example, Tandem Launch was not just money. At that time, Tandem Launch was smart money for me because the person who was running the fund knew about display industry, has sold in a display industry, knew about image processing. So I would get a lot more than just the money from that partnership.
So it was a strategic,
Exactly. Yeah.
strategic choice. Okay, great. You touched on women in tech and women in entrepreneurships. So this is a question I had reserved for a bit later, but we'll get to it now since we already touched on that. So you're both in the engineering and in the automotive world. Both these spheres are very highly male dominated. I don't know, you tell me. Having gone to engineering school, I can tell you yes.
You had two women in the whole school. Yeah, that's
true. At my graduation, we had two girls too. So and my friends couldn't believe it. So so can you share your experiences in that field, whether it's how it helped you or how it was an obstacle for you?
So I also volunteer and I run some women in tech events. So this question always comes up. And it's interesting because no matter what industry they are in, you can always say it's male dominated mostly. Most of industries, it's just one or two that you can say they're not male dominated. But automotive, massively, I would say, especially German automotive market that we started working with. So first of all, you get used to it. If you go to engineering school, you're used to being only one or two among like the 20 or 30 or 50. And I love to say it really doesn't matter. It's not a gender thing. It's not a color of the skin thing. I would love to say that. And I think sometimes it really doesn't matter. Sometimes it matters just because you're a minority. And when you're in a minority, the majority, by definition, does not understand the whole mindset, or they do not encounter the mindset of minorities. They haven't thought about it. It's not something mean. It doesn't mean we need to fight with it. It's just the way it is, and we need to accept it. Being an immigrant and being a woman, being always the younger person in the board, I think that has been my life. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it works in my advantage. So, for example, in automotive, you go to these big companies, these big OEMs, they are receiving kind of pitches from, let's say, 10 startups in a month with different technologies. You stand out. You're the one which is memorable. It's like, that girl? Yeah, that one, yeah, I remember that technology. So that was about this and that. So sometimes it works in your benefit because you stand out and you're unique, and they don't expect to see a lot of women or younger people in the room. So it's both ends. And the fact sometimes it's not good because you're in an environment that they don't, and it's like, let's say like a boys club, and they don't really think that, I shouldn't use those words in your life.
Oh, no.
I'm good. Okay. So, and then they don't expect women, and they're not so much used to having women around. It's the opposite way it works too, right? Like when girls are around and there's no boy in the room, they might have a different terminology and talk differently compared to when we have a guy in the room. So those are the times that it's just a bit more sensitivity. And I think slowly building the culture and raising your hand and say, oh yeah, I'm here. Like, let's switch the discussion. It's manageable, but I don't think it's anything that it's like a showstopper or big roadblock for women entrepreneurs. I think a bit of this, having a lot of women in tech events, is good because we're encouraging women. But on the other side, I think we're also freaking out some people that it's like what is out there that I don't know, or what's going to happen to me. I have experienced like weird moments or strange comments, but you move on. It's like, it's nothing that is a roadblocker, I would say, for the business.
I suppose being in Montreal also might help in that
Definitely.
in that area.
Definitely.
So speaking about Montreal, what do you think are the benefits of being part of the Montreal ecosystem? What has it brought you in terms of like added value to your company, or maybe to the talent you were looking for? Montreal
is just a lovely city. Winters are tough, but it's a lovely city with lovely people.
You don't mention them.
I know. We just forget about them. But the people are amazing. I've lived in 3 different countries, worked in 3 different countries and continents. But Montreal is unique because of the diversity in every aspect. And that, I think, has brought a unique character and energy to the city that is very unique. And it makes it so much easier. Like the whole point of diversity, when we are talking about men and women, when we are talking about black and white or brown or different colors, what is the point of diversity? The point of diversity is you build better products when you look at it from every aspect and different point of views, right? So Montreal has built this ecosystem that is very successful integrating different point of views. Of course, when I started here and when I moved here, the AI has not yet boomed here. The whole deep learning was very new at that time. But now, being the hub of AI, having a lot of big players investing in the city, it makes the market very interesting and dynamic. And that's good for every startup. You tap in the ecosystem, you can always find people to learn from, no matter what topic. Like pick a topic, fundraising, like hiring, hardware, software, whatever you pick, there are people that you can learn from, and they're very generous. The ecosystem that Montreal has is very generous with their time. I've seen maybe in Silicon Valley some friends that are in different cities, but it's a lot of the events are paid, a lot of webinars are not free or easy to attend. If you want to talk to someone who has had a successful career, you need to pay for some. So Montreal has this multi-layered friendliness and kindness, I would say, which is integrated.
That is true.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely that it shows in the startup ecosystem as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Would you say that AI talent in Montreal is hard to find? I've had mixed feedback about that. Some people say the talent pool is good enough. Some people say it's being like everybody's basically fishing from the same pond, and there's not enough people anymore. What would you say about the AI talent?
Well, we haven't hired a lot of AI people to be able to really judge, but we are close to the ecosystem, and we are planning for growing in AI. But we have been partnering with universities in AI for 5 years. I don't really know. I think we probably have enough talent, and there are always bubbles, right? There are always some companies who are hiring, but then they disappear after a while. And then that talent is available to the market again. So I wouldn't say, I'm not really sure, because we haven't yet hired a lot of people in AI. Okay. But I think we have a very good enough pool. And the pool is not just the engineers we hire, it's also the ecosystem, as you said. It's the whole universities and the partnerships you can put in place in AI. They're super open to partnerships with industry, and then having one of the best government fundings, like the MyTax, the NSERC, all those applications that you can really work with and partner with universities. I would say it should be good enough for what we are doing in Montreal, unless all the US companies come and build kind of branches here and then
offices here and start
to fish for our talent, which is also a good thing. But then On the other hand, being immigrant friendly, a lot of people are applying to come on work visa and student visa to be in Montreal. So I would say it's always kind of a balance.
Okay.
From my point of view.
That's pretty good feedback. So you started IRYStec about 5 years ago, grown it, and then now you've sold to a multinational.
Right.
Can you describe kind of how it happened? Is it everything you dreamed it would be? Is it?
It was all planned, every step of it. No.
And yeah, you can start with that, and then I'll follow up.
I think some of my team members might be watching, and I'm sure they're laughing. Selling a company, like of course, it's a hard thing to do, and sometimes it's the goal, and sometimes it's not. Right, depending on where you are in your startup. What is your strategy? And this is a collective shareholder, investor, founder, team, and everybody's decision and vision. That's why it's important to have people on board which are sharing the same vision as the founders, or founders need to partner with the right same-minded people. So for us, it was a goal. So we really planned it. It was not an accidental exit. We planned for it, but what happened throughout the when we were going through selling the company, a lot has happened that is out of our control, which is the startup life. My biggest lesson learned there is I was watching a TED Talk maybe like a few years ago, which it was a lady sharing what is the biggest factor in success. Is it IQ? Is it EQ? Is it perseverance? And they studied this. It was a psychological one. And she was using the word grit. So I lived it, and my team lived it with me. So I think this was one of the stages that we sold the company. This was one of the stages that it was a lot of ups and downs. We sold the company during COVID, right? It was early, like it happened in April, and we were already 2 or 3 weeks in COVID. A lot of unknown, a lot of uncertainty, as every stage, a lot of moments that you think you need to lose hope. Everybody is losing hope. Those down moments, and just sticking together. If you have the right technology, if you believe in the technology, and the business model to some extent, I would say don't give up, and it's going to pay off. So this was probably the biggest lesson learned for that, or what I learned during the selling the company. It was planned. It was fun. I think we went through unique ups and downs, a lot of ups and downs within like a course of 6 months. Looking into fundraising, extending, we were not sure if COVID is gonna destroy the deal or not. Having team members which were somewhere like thinking that it's not going to go anywhere, like somewhere really thinking that this should go somewhere, including myself, but we could not be sure. The same in the board and investors. So it was a very unique experience, and I'm happy that it worked out for everybody. But it's startup; it could have easily not worked.
Well, it did, and congratulations.
Thank you.
There's a big difference in company culture.
Yeah.
In a startup, a small startup, versus a corporate entity versus a multinational. How do you see company culture? How do you see the difference? How has the acquisition affected your IRYStec culture within the Faurecia IRYStec?
Very good question, and maybe it's too early to answer that, but so far, I would say we were very lucky, and this is one of those things that when you're picking your partners, the buyer is a very important partner. They are the buyer when you're selling your company is the one that you're betting the growth of the company on, right? You're betting on them that they are going to take us to the next level. And they're betting on us, so they're buying you with the high hopes of growth, right? So it's a very interesting dynamic, and we were very lucky so far. I cannot stress how happy and excited I am about the acquisition and working with Faurecia, because first of all, I've heard that this was the fastest M&A they've ever done.
Okay.
It was during COVID, and we have had great support in every aspect. They are keeping us as a startup, more or less, with providing us a lot of infrastructure and help that the big company has. So far, it has not slowed us down at all. So we are continuing delivering to our customers. We are continuing building, and the roadmaps are just nicely married into their roadmap, which is great so far. But I know that like one of the reasons maybe is because it's I heard that they had a lot of lessons learned also in acquisitions, and they wanted it, so they planned it to be an acquisition that they would want to keep the dynamicness of the startup. So far it has not affected us, the whole big company culture yet. But it's not something that I'm afraid of per se, because I think as much as we want to be fast, we also want to be betting on the right growth plan. And that's where our company is. We are just at the growth stage. So we had one solid customer, and then turning that one into 20 needed either a massive fundraising and growth in the company in terms of leadership, skills, and everything, or to partner up with a big company to help us with that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So ask me again this question in a year or so.
Okay, I'll mark it as to be repeated.
Yeah,
but it's
to be checked.
Okay, check. But it's good that, I mean, they opted to keep your identity, your company identity, kind of intact, and the culture so far as we know. So that's pretty good.
As far as I know, it was planned, and they really wanted to set it up like this.
Perfect. So I mean, so far you've given us more or less the bright side, the happy story of moving through stages. Yeah, the glory of being an entrepreneur and starting your own company, getting acquired. I want to know the hidden stories behind closed doors, behind the scenes. Did you have any down moments, rough days? Not at all.
All perfectly planned, going by the plan.
Okay, next question.
Yes. You know the answer because we've chatted about this before. It's I don't know if all startups are this. They have this many crazy moments, or it was just us. This was my first serious entrepreneurship experience, so I will be able to judge maybe next time a bit better. But of course not. So my experience and my team's experience is full of weird and crazy ups and downs, things that you could never imagine. You only maybe see in movies that they happen, but it happens in real life. So a lot of ups and downs, a lot of moments that you doubt if you made the right decision. And I'm sure I shared this with a lot of partners or people who were part of our journey. A lot of moments that you're thinking, this is the moment to just move on. Is it not? Should I push another milestone? Especially during COVID. I know a lot of startups are having a hard time. Big companies are having a hard time. Automotive is being hit. I wish I could share all the detailed stories, and this webinar would have been like for 24 hours to go through all the nasty detail. But in a nutshell, the biggest lesson learned and the hardest thing I learned is that people are the most important asset of the startup, and you need to pick them very wisely, and you need to surround yourself with good people, good experts in the field, but also good people because you're going to war with them. I went to multiple wars with my team, with our board members, investors, everybody. It's like the whole ecosystem. It's not just the co-founder and the technical team. It's everybody, which is part of it. And you really want to pick them wisely. Don't only look for particular expertise. Let's say in our case, image processing. You should look for the personality as well, the personality match, because hard times come, and the hard day comes, and you need support to be able to go through it. We definitely had a lot of times that we doubted if you're doing the right thing, if the market is going to happen or not. Let's start from the beginning. We talked about consumer electronics. Should we pivot or should we push more? Is it normal that we haven't had revenue for a year? Should we wait for another 6 months? Should we spend more money, or should we just stop and back off and pick another market? Those moments are very critical moments, and probably there is no wrong answer. It's just not wasting time and do something. When you identify a problem, just do something about it and move on. But yeah, the biggest lessons learned, you need support in all of those decisions. You need good people and smart people around you. And I was lucky that I had an amazing team, and I had a great family support. Without my husband, which is actually walking the baby around somewhere right now for me to do this.
We'd like to thank him as well.
Yeah. We have a very loud baby, 14 months old, so she would be probably running over here.
All right, so pick your army wisely.
Definitely. You're going to war. Yeah.
Great. I want to jump to a slightly different topic, which is nowadays there's a big focus on images and cameras. It's mostly driven by the mobile phone industry and social media. I know you've done your thesis on that subject.
Right.
So do you think improvement in that field might bring added value to the world in general? And
For sure. Well, I have to believe that's our field is gonna bring something good to the world. I think image processing, camera, displays, sensors in general, sensor fusion, these are the future of high tech. It is gonna happen. The question is, how is it gonna change our life? Like take a snapshot of every 5 years and look at how our lives has changed, having access to more technology, to more cameras, to more displays, being surrounded with more displays. So I think one parallel topic that is going to become more and more important is the whole wellness topic. Spending, at least in my area and in my field, spending so much time in front of displays, what will happen? For children, what are the side effects? Is it going to hurt their brain or vision, or how to get around it? So I think, or even with AI, there are a lot of interesting discussions on what will happen when AI is more advanced than what it is today, the ethics, the wellness, all those topics that I think are byproducts of the advancement in the technology will become more and more interesting. And I think we need more and more people to investigate those areas.
So IRYStec, the name suggests it's the cross between the biology and the technology. So what you're saying is
that was always our vision, and we think that's futuristic vision to have technologies advance, but also make sure that the wellness is taken into account. Because we can make the displays better and change them, make them curved and make them holographic or whatever, but then it means we are going to spend more time in front of them. Then children will have obese issues, they will have ADHD issues, adults are going to have vision problems. So our vision has been, and it still is, to keep an eye on the wellness and human part of it as well, human side of it as well.
Perfect. At this point, I just want to invite everybody to send in their questions. Just please use the Q&A option in the Zoom, so we can look at them in a bit, and we'll take the questions in a couple of minutes. I wanted to ask you a question that's personal to, not personal, but like this is my own question off. Didn't prepare for it. I think Cedric is going to appreciate it too. So you pivoted your startup from a PhD idea, right? Like from a thesis, sort of.
I did my PhD in a similar topic, but it was not that like that. I told you it went through a lot of iterations to become what is IRYStec today.
Do you have any advice for people that are thinking of pursuing a PhD, or at the same time like starting a startup? So what would you do? Would you pursue one or the other, pursue both?
One of the hardest things I've done in my life, beside having a toddler and work in COVID situation at home, that probably tops it or is equal to the other one. One of the hardest things I've done was to start IRYStec while I was doing my PhD. So I was not done with my PhD when I moved here, and kind of did the second half of my PhD remotely from Montreal. My PhD university was in Vienna. So that was one of the hardest things I've done. But it's doable if you like it and if they are close enough. So these two topics were close enough. And when I was working and doing research on IRYStec, I could use that for my thesis and vice versa. That made it doable, but it was hard work for sure. I definitely recommend it, not for everybody, but for people who are passionate and like to do it, right? For my sister was asking me a while ago, should I do a PhD or not? Knowing her, like, no, why do you need a PhD? You're already passionate about what you're doing. You should just get into the market, start your own business and do it. You start your own business, but you don't need a PhD for it. So it's very, I think it's a character and personality thing. Like PhD is long and hard, and it's very deep dive. If you like that, and if you want to be an expert in a particular topic, for sure. But it's a very different topic. Like that has nothing to do with entrepreneurship. Doing them at the same time, like that can happen, but they're two different decisions, I would say. And entrepreneurship is just a passion and grit and perseverance, and then being in the mode of always being flexible enough. As an entrepreneur, you need to be flexible enough to change your mind, to course correct when you're going somewhere. And that is something that when you go to PhD, it's not a same skill set you practice. When you're doing a lot of deep dive, you become more rough at the edges, which is not the same skill set you need as an entrepreneur. So like balance of it is.
You need to strike the balance.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. I'll start taking questions from the crowd. First one, typical one. You've touched on it a bit. It's the typical customary COVID question. So I guess your story is a bit different. You sold your company during COVID, but would you have any? Well, has it affected your team in any way, like moving completely to remote work? And what is your advice for people to weather this storm or any upcoming storm?
I think it has affected everybody, right? There's no way that we can say it is not affected. The culture that we've been working, like especially in startups, it's very common and usual. You don't have the big infrastructure to document everything. You just go to people and talk to them, and that's a very big. Now you need to set up a lot of meetings and plan for it. Of course, it affects businesses. I would say it slows down the communications massively. But it is what it is, and hopefully we are getting through it. I know it's fundraising has been difficult for some companies. Exit plans has fallen apart. But I would say if you have the right team, again, goes back to surround yourself with the right people, and then you're flexible enough, then you can deal with unexpected stuff that happens. So it was harder, but we are pushing through it. It's not ideal, but we keep connected and we are pushing through it. Sorry that I don't have a better answer. I wish I had a magical pill for the situation, and then we would use it ourselves in IRYStec first, but no vaccination.
We'll see.
Magical pill.
Next question is from Hugues. Question, Flara, when the time came to negotiate with the automotive manufacturer, how did you set a price for your tech or company?
Ooh, that is we negotiated with one of the contracts. I cannot mention which one, but one of the contracts, which was an important contract, we delivered the technology within 6 months. We negotiated the contracts for 9 months. So it was a lot of back and forth, and you don't have much leverage. It's very normal with, I know it now, but it's very more normal with the first customer, with the lead customer, that you have less leverage. And you probably need to give in on some terms. It's just you need to make the choice. Which terms are the ones that you want to stick to and which ones are the ones that you want to give in. But definitely the first negotiation is one of the hardest ones. And you gave in, you give some benefits to your first lead customer always. It's the same in automotive.
Okay. Have a question from Ash. So he's a founder relocating a pre-launch business from Sydney to Montreal. He'd love to know your opinion about working with startup studios like Tandem Launch. Would you think it's a good idea to partner with such startup studios or go with a VC? And then there's another question, we'll get to it.
For sure. I think I touched on that it really depends on what you're doing, right? So for me, it was smart money. It was money, but it was also the know-how of the domain I wanted to start a startup on. It's picking your partner, whether it's Tandem Launch or other VCs you mentioned, or other incubators, or it's really the matter of finding the fit. And you shouldn't shy away from giving yourself enough time to do your due diligence. So if you feel this is not the right fit, that this particular VC is not the right fit because their portfolio doesn't match what you really do, don't worry about moving to the next one. Don't get into the desperation mode of, I just need to raise, right? So that's I would say, my biggest advice for that stage. You need to choose your partners wisely and make sure that they share the vision with you.
Okay, and the rest of the question is, what percentage of shares do venture studios take in exchange for their financial or knowledge source? So do they cut into your idea a lot, or do you think it's fair?
It really depends. It
Okay.
really depends. I've seen even within the same VC or same incubator, I've seen very different approaches. I think it depends how much help you get and when you're raising, how advanced or early stage you are, where you are in the product building, where you are in the market validation. All of these are the ones that you need to check mark to raise. So there is no one best answer. If there was a one optimized equation, everybody would follow. So that's one of the nasty but also interesting things about building a startup. There is no VC optimized equation that you would just go and say, I will do this. It's really a lot of things you need to take into account and make the base decision based
case by case every single time.
Yeah.
Another question about your PhD years. So have you inherited any skills or traits from your PhD years that negatively affected your startup management? So you kind of touched on that. So example, most, but not all engineers are bad at politics. So this is coming from Emil. So I think you touched on that. You can get more specific if you want.
First-time founders are not supposed to be politicians, right? Even second-time, like founders are not supposed to be politicians. And again, depending on what ecosystem, what board setup, what investor match you will have, you might need to learn. Again, I don't know if the word is politics or the word is like getting a bit beyond only looking at the technology and the product. Some of the things that I've learned is sometimes if I go back in time, I might probably change something that I did at that time, because in particular times I probably was very much focused only on the product or only on the technology, and I lost the bigger picture of this person is looking at it from return on investment, this other person is looking at it from the business model, this other person. So you need to be able to really look and have the perspective, a higher level perspective. And if you don't have that, you need to equip yourself with someone with that talent within your team that can easily go from a detailed layer to an abstract level, looking into the whole equation and the whole setup of the company.
So get your head out of the technical stuff and start looking at a big picture.
And the bigger picture, yeah.
Okay. One last question from the crowd, and then we'll wrap it up. So you mentioned building a startup has ups and downs. How do you keep the team motivated? So we talked about having the right team, but how do you keep the right team motivated?
That's, yeah, I don't know. We should ask our team if I even managed to keep them motivated. It is a hard one. The whole, I would say the hardest thing in HR, in startups is HR, the human relationships, and keep all the bits and pieces of people's psychology together, including the founder themselves, is very hard. How to do it? I don't know. I think in our case, it was a lot of transparency. We went through very, very hard times, but we were very transparent with our team, and we gave them options and choice to first brainstorm and tell us what you think, but also ask a lot of questions, and then eventually you're not forced to go through it. Maybe founders kind of choose to go through the ups and downs, and you want everybody to go with you, but that's not the reality. Not everybody is in it the same way and risks the same way the founders do, or the VC do, or the investor does. So I would say transparency, and then having the right characters when you're building your team. And don't shy away from parting ways from people that you find maybe afterwards that they are not the right cultural fit for this. Keeping the culture is very important. So who was it? It was someone recently, I heard that they were saying hire fast and fire faster. It's not a nice thing to say, but you need to keep that consistency. You need to keep that dynamic and culture of the startup. So it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing effort to keep it the way it is, so that when you are at war, hopefully you have the right partners.
The right people.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I like how you brought it back. So we got another question is, what would be the best initial steps for growing tech-based ideas in Canada, considering different ways to attract the necessary cash flow?
The right way of phrasing, is that?
Best initial steps for growing a tech-based idea in Canada.
For growing,
where would you start?
I'm assuming growing, by growing you mean getting sufficient funding or raising, or
yes, based on the rest of the question. Yeah, I think that is it.
Yeah, because they mentioned cash flow somewhere. So one thing that maybe I didn't mention, because again, my answer is going to be depends and blah, blah, blah. But one thing I didn't mention is how much money you need. So for us, we were doing heavy high-tech research product. We were building something which needed still research and development, a lot of research and development. So we needed a lot of money up front. So we needed to raise $500K at the beginning to start with. A lot of ideas, let's say when Uber starts, when a lot of ideas, I don't have more examples on top of my mind, but a lot of apps that are successful out there, those kind of businesses, you do not need $500K. So don't go and give up a lot of equity and raise a lot of money that you don't need. So you need to always be stingy enough in the amount that you raise but also optimize it in a way that it helps your needs. So I would say that's my advice. If you have an idea that for now you need 50K to mature it to the next step, just raise 50K. Don't go for something bigger. Or if you just need to partner with university to do some R&D, because there are a lot of government funds available for that, just do that and don't go for something bigger before if you're not sure you're going to need those amount of funding.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me.
And the experience was, I mean, really lovely chat. I really appreciated it. I have one last question for you. What's coming for Faurecia, IRYStec in the next few months, year, days?
A lot of interesting stuff. So now we are at the honeymoon stage that we are thinking about a lot of cool things to do, and we have joined forces, so we are stronger than ever. So I'm going to use this platform and say we are hiring for a position. We are hiring for an FPGA position, FPGA designer, senior FPGA designer. What we want to do is we have a software product. We want to build a hardware product as well, so we broaden our reach in the market. And we have a lot of new innovative ideas and partnerships that we are looking into putting in place. So partnering with very big companies that it was very hard for a startup to do before, now is easy and it's interesting. So it's like, there are partners there. I can go and talk to this very big OEM and join forces and do something interesting. So that's the part that is going to help us, I think, with the innovation. And we do have a close relationship with universities as well. Cambridge, Oxford, name it, a lot of good universities that we have been partnering with them. So marrying this to like the OEM world and the academic world and trying to build something cutting edge to solve the problems out there.
Beautiful. So the possibilities are pretty much endless.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I know we've taken a lot of your time and you have a baby to take care of. So thank you so much. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks, Mazen. Very nice talking to you. Thanks for inviting me.
Likewise. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.